Good evening from our main studios on Camp Johnson Road in Central Monrovia. This is News Today on KMTV, and I'm Julius Conton presenting on the 10th day of December 2019. In our top stories, we're following Lifeable, Old Age and Regrettable. Executive Mansion brings former Vice President Joseph Newman Boaka's statement that he welcomes the planned December 30th protest and calls for the accountability of the $16 billion value. Pressure Group gives national government 144 hours ultimatum to provide autopsy report relative to the deaths of 3 future leaders. The ruling Coalition for Democratic Change welcomes dialogue ahead of the much publicized December 30th protests. The details for these and much more developments are coming up in a jiffy, so please be my guest. Many thanks for rejoining us to bring you our first development. Presidential Press Secretary Isaac Solokegbe has termed as regrettable statement emanating from former Vice President Joseph Newman Boaka, among other things, welcoming the planned December 30th protest. According to him, the statement is unpatriotic, attributing it to old age syndrome. Mr. Kegbe, addressing Executive Mansion reporters at the regular press briefing on Tuesday, says it's about time that eminent citizens of Liberia desist from making statements that have the propensity to scare away investors and incite the people against the government.
What was said should not be coming from somebody who was in authority. And some of the things this government, this president is trying to fix happen. Baka talked about wanting clarification or wanting accountability for $16 billion that he printed when he was president of the Liberian Senate without the confirmation, without authority to the government that was printed. He did not give account of it when he was there. They went into other agreements with companies when they were leaving office. He didn't ask for accommodation. He didn't ask for authorization or accountability. So we're just seeking is regrettable that such men will make those kind of utterances. Probably people need to tell some of our politicians, not just politicians, but people aging. When you reach certain age, there are certain things that you can't just remember. People need to be reminded that if the president leaves office today, Baka is no longer vice president, probably needs to be reminded that his administration is over. The next vice president take office, the vice president ever is the speaker. So if President Weah should say, well, today I don't want to be president, he will not be next in command. So he should be reminded to stop pushing people to the streets, to do things that are unconstitutional. People that are way in our constitution. If you think a government elected president should be removed from office, there are procedures and we should learn to follow those procedures.
Well, major boost in food road infrastructure sector of Liberia as $100 million has been provided for the construction, rehabilitation, and maintenance of major roads across Liberia. Here once more is Isaac Solokegbe disclosing this to Executive Mansion reporters.
To road construction and road maintenance in Liberia, the Swedish government committed $15 million for the rehabilitation and maintenance of road across the country. The African Development committed $50 million United States dollar for the construction of the Grand Cru Sino Road, and then you have the European Union EBA also committing $35 million for the Sanico Lukwato Road. The president projects are ongoing. Basically, the second phase of the Popo Beach project is fast going. We want to encourage each and every one of you to be able to visit those sites and see the progress being made. Is at a very, very speedy pace. So most of you can go to New Britain to see what is happening there. We see additional houses are being constructed, additional houses have been renovated, and areas for shops and things to be built are also on the way. So you go there to tell the story yourself and see how things are progressing. The Omega market has gone more than 60%. Also in the Gorbachev market red light site, you can also take a tour of the facility and to see and tell the people exactly what this government is doing. President Road Construction got a boost with the infusion of the commitment of $1 million United States dollars from our development partners. That's the Swedish government, the European Union, the European Bank for Investment and Development, and the African Development Bank. They have all committed.
Former political leader of the Congress for Democratic Change, Councillor Winston Todman, has challenged Liberians to remain positive in their thoughts if the country is to move forward. He said constructive ideas and positive actions will foster a better Liberia. Councillor Todman made his statement when he paid a tribute at the funeral of his nephew in the United States of America.
You know, nowadays people are always complaining that things are not good in Liberia. I said to one of my younger brothers, don't say that. It doesn't help. Let's look on the positive side. And that's what Dada did. He looked for positive things to stress in these difficult times. That's what we should do. I recently read somewhere where someone said, no one owns money. Money is for everybody. If you come up with a good idea, money will come to that idea. Now we know we have people in this room, people from our family, from Liberia, who have good ideas. Our country needs good ideas to be found, so that money can come, so that we can develop our country. So that instead of us leaving as we're doing, we will find the cause to go back and build up our country. This is the lesson I learned from what I heard about my nephew. I hope that we all learned it and will find a chance to put it into practice in the coming years. God bless all of us.
In the wake of the increasing wave of mysterious deaths as well as the proliferation of sexual gender-based violence cases across Liberia, a pressure group under the Bannon Campaigner for Justice has called for what it described as a national emergency for the deaths of 3 future leaders of Liberia in recent weeks. Addressing a news conference Tuesday, the Young Act advocates gave national government 144 hours ultimatum to provide autopsy reports for the deaths of the 3 future leaders. The lead campaigner Tatos Bakala and Benetta Uri spoke at a news conference Tuesday.
We resist said assumptions and reaffirm our commitment to the parents of these children until justice is served. Amanda, we are resolved to lead a 2-day national strike in the midst of international community until the demands are met on behalf of the family of these victims. Our commitment to this cause is fully backed by our conscience, and we remain passionately committed.
We do believe that the police is jumping to conclusions, but we can't say for a fact if they are trying to sabotage this investigation. For a fact, yesterday, the LNP released a press release stating that when the officers were on the scene, they concluded that there was suicide was committed in this house. So how could you come to this conclusion without carrying out an autopsy, without examining the blood on Linda's shirt, and so many other things that we believe that the national police is jumping to conclusions way too fast. Even within their press release, they stated that it was alleged suicide, and in that same paragraph, they resulted in saying they have investigated and they decided that it is suicide. And in that same paragraph, they also said we are still trying to finish our investigation. So it's left with the press to come to this conclusion, but we do conclude that the police is jumping to conclusions. They need to carry out a thorough investigation. They need to question all the people within this proximity.
Meanwhile, the mysterious deaths of the three children, including Linda Sherman, Lutricia Davis, and Omaru Kamara, is worrisome and needs urgent attention. Both Faith Haddad and Vic June Wonder also spoke at a news conference Tuesday.
In the picture they placed on the internet, there was a suit next to Linda. Now, if we are to believe that Linda used that suit to tie herself to the rope, why is it that the suit is on the right, the dishes bowl is on the left with Linda? Shouldn't it be in the same position? Or is Moses Carter telling us that Linda stretched from her right as high as that cover to tie the rope? Are they trying to tell us that Linda jumped from up there but did not stand straight? Instead her leg was like this? There are more to this.
We believe that more needs to be done, and what the police have given has no iota of any persuasiveness in it for us to believe that she committed suicide. Another thing that happened is the police keep coming up with answers that are not okay for us. We've had too many cases similarly, and the way they've handled those cases have given us more reasons not to trust them. The reason one is with the Odelphi Sherman case. The police reported that her death was accidental, and in no way we believe that they have rushed to close the case. We one way or the other believe that that case will be reopened in due time. So we are saying here today that we don't want what has happened to others to keep happening. And let me say this: when these kind of things happen and people don't set precedences, they always reoccur, and then it becomes normal. Life in Liberia is already kind of vulnerable because there's no justice for the poor already. So we don't want to keep things repeating, and we want this particular case to serve as the precedent for would-be perpetrators and violators and criminals.
That's the Vice President of the Liberia National Students Union, Vic June Wonto. Earlier you saw one of the campaigners march for justice in person of Faith Haddad speaking at a news conference on today, addressing issues relative to the mysterious deaths of children in Liberia, giving the government 144 hours ultimatum to release a autopsy report to the deaths of the three kids. Bringing us to the bridge of this Tuesday evening presentation of News Today on KMTV. One of our top stories we following: laughable old age and regrettable executive mansion brands former Vice President Joseph Newman Boaka's statement that he welcomes the planned December 30th protest and calls for the accountability of the $16 billion pressure group. Gives national government 144 hours ultimatum to provide autopsy report relative to the deaths of three future leaders of Liberia. And stay ahead of us in this broadcast. Ruling Coalition for Democratic Change welcomes dialogue ahead of the much publicized December 30th planned protest. We'll bring you that story plus much more right after this break, so please don't go away. Many thanks for rejoining us. If you just joined us, you're watching News Today on KMTV. We'll bring you more developments. Ahead of the December 30th Council of Patriots protest, Ruling Coalition for Democratic Change says it welcomes roundtable discussions, describing it as a civilized process in settling differences. Despite such pronouncement, CDC Chairman Moban Molu said they will not give listening ears to what he calls irresponsible characters who intend is to create chaos in the society.
While our compatriots who are organizing and leading the December 30th, 2019 protests have the right to free speech, free assembly, and protest, they are a subset of the larger society, and their rights must not jeopardize the lives and well-being of non-participants. Consequently, their plain action does not only constitute a flagrant violation of the rule of law, but is also treasonable. In no uncertain terms, the leadership of the CDC condemns statements calling for President Weah to step down and calls on all well-meaning Liberians to distance themselves from these vitriolic utterances that will only serve the agenda of politicians who are determined to elevate narrow interests above the peace, safety, and security of the state. Whatever their intentions are in utilizing their unalienable rights to express themselves and assemble, it cannot and should not willfully and adversely affect the lives, security, and well-being of non-participants. The CDC, in the same spirit of participation or patriotism, welcomes dialogue as a civilized process by which the people should address their differences. While we have made it very clear that there can be no negotiations on the methods and process by which we elect our national leadership, except that which is enshrined in our Constitution, we also expect government to listen to those who have genuine issues relative to good governance. In this manner, we encourage President Weah to remain engaged or agree to engage with any Liberian citizen or group of citizens who show respect for the office of the presidency, desiring discussions around genuine national issues, but not irresponsible characters bent on creating chaos and anarchy.
Well, Mr. Molu, through the executive committee of the CDC, meanwhile challenged President George Weah to conduct a reshuffle in his government and prioritize civil servants and salaries, including a revisitation of the harmonization process.
The National Executive Committee of the CDC has resolved to call on this distinguished flag bearer to implement the following: that he ensures that he conducts a major reshuffle at the most senior levels of government, remove underachievers and underminers functioning in senior level positions, especially those who appoint cronies to critical positions at line ministries and agencies, to scheme a counter-progressive agenda. 3. Order an immediate investigation into the acquisition of real estate properties acquired by current officials of this government during this period of governance or employment. This process is important because it may validate how officials and other employees working in this government acquire new properties and assets so as to exonerate them from the Corruption Perception Index. Commission a comprehensive audit of the past administration and our own administration to date so as to establish the facts surrounding the country's resources and how it has or were been used. Prioritize our civil servants' timely salary payments, as these are the people who ensure that government functions properly. Revisit the harmonization process to ensure that there is equity and parity in job classes and between jobs. Ensure that all public officials attending government functions outside of Liberia be made to fly economy class and that private trade using government funding be immediately aborted.
From politics now, we cross over to energy, where the government of Liberia, through the Ministry of Mines and Energy, has described the Transco Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone and Guinea project as a boost into the country when completed. The World Bank project, which is expected to be completed in March next year, according to Mines and Energy Minister Jeslo Murray, will make electricity affordable and reachable to the Liberian populace.
There can now be no hiding from the impact of the missing CLSG December electrification deadline. It will hurt us, it will hurt the LEC, and it will hurt ordinary Liberians. But we must now pick ourselves up and get on with the cards we have been dealt. Again, I want to repeat that what I said last week. We all know we must drive down the load by removing illegal and non-paying commercial customers and illegal syndicates if we are to have any chance of meeting deadline, meeting demand, until we again have Mount Coffee power back in 2020 rainy season and an operational CLSG. And that must include a robust and sustainable process of theft-proofing the LEC system and the commercial connections. And for this, we will be asking for all the help we can from our partners. We must look at exactly what the CLSG electrification under this new timeline looks like. We must make sure we understand the role of the TSAs and the PPAs.
However, the World Bank country manager to Liberia, Akwiman Ukara, says it will be unfortunate for Liberia if the government is unable to take on the household Transco CLZ project on time.
It will be very unfortunate when the CLG land comes from Yokipa. The government of Liberia is not ready to connect the households there, because that's not our own work, responsibility to connect the households. No, it's the responsibility of the government. Then when we come to Buchanan, the same thing. If the government is not ready, it will be a problem. We come to the Man Coffee, which is responsible for the entire muscle.
Apologize for that wrong clip. We'll bring it in our subsequent newscast. Let's now bring it our final development. An online news magazine reporter, Lisa Darcy, has declared her intention to contest the upcoming elections of the Female Journalists Association of Liberia. According to her, when elected, she will transform that auxiliary of the PUL into a more vibrant one.
In the last 3 years, there are already few women in leadership positions in the newsrooms have declined to several other factors, one of it being the inability of the current leadership to follow up and keep mentoring and motivating women in the media. As it stands, most of our members are not in the know of what goes on even at the lower level of our organization. It is a fact that few people who are a part of the elite club see diversity as an enemy of their own personal interest. Participation is key in decision making, which is real to FIJA's member, even in Monrovia and even for the counties in this country. So they are far away, so the leadership are not able to get them involved with different processes leading to decision making. Transparency and accountability have eluded the activities of the Female Journalists Association of Liberia for the past 3 years, sourcing grants on the brand of FIJA and failing to make financial reports to the membership and donors who expect to see positive results for expense made by the organization is not only worrying but unethical conduct, which drops low to every administrative requirement. We will all agree that there are problems that we must solve right now in the interest of FIJA. And it is the membership that will be able to take up that particular role. We must put women in the position to take up leadership roles in the newsrooms across.
Vice presidential candidate in the ensuing election of Female Journalists Association of Liberia, Lisa Darcy, declared her intention and telling her colleagues why she thinks she is the best choice for that particular leadership. With that, we come to the end of this presentation of News Today on KMTV. Before going, a recap of our top stories. Laughable, regrettable, and old age. Executive Mansion brings former Vice President Joseph Newman Boaka's statement that he welcomes the planned December 30th protest and calls for the accountability of the $16 billion. Pressure group gives national government 144 hours ultimatum to provide autopsy report relative to the deaths of 3 future leaders of Liberia. Many thanks for watching. Better to join us tomorrow for more news on KMTV. Special thanks to the entire crew, including Rufus Mombo, who sat at controls. I'm Julius Compton. Good night.